Now, the other thing to remember is whatever's decided today, and hopefully it's the IHRA definition, the examples with some clarifications, won't set Labour policy. This is not what Labour thinks. This is not what it says going into an election. This is clearly and solely about setting the parameters of where free speech and debate transcends into bigotry and prejudice.
The problem is that it has already done that in the eyes of so many people, hasn't it? I mean, when Stephen Kinnock talked a moment ago, that's exactly what he was saying. It has done, which is why Jeremy Corbyn has to show remorse, to use Mr. Kinnock's word. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the Labour Party could have done more. I don't want to point the finger at Corbyn here because...
Well, why not? He's the leader.
Well, there's two distinct things. There's the party bureaucracy. So I think there's, for instance, an issue I feel quite strongly on is the speed at which the cases of anti-Semitism, the small number compared to the 500,000 plus members in the Labour Party.
How many do you need?
They need to be dealt with, but it's not endemic, and these cases need to be dealt with faster. I totally agree. But that's a question of party bureaucracy. That's not Jeremy's. He doesn't sit there making decisions. There are committees and councils. Totally, and I'd like to see, I agree with Stephen, when Jeremy makes his conference speech, this to be addressed too. But I think to make out in this narrative that it's Jeremy Corbyn's fault that there is a small number of anti-Semites in Labour Party's ranks, when the anti-Semitism sadly has been a stain on our country and beyond across Europe for generations, caused untold horrors, is an absurdity. And there are people on both sides, and I say debate here because it's not really a debate, it shouldn't be. There are people who say they're on the left who are doing a disservice to Jewish people by calling every incident of anti-Semitism a smear and going online and repeating those tropes. But there are also people, I have to say, on the other side of the party and the other side of this debate who are ramping up the rhetoric and fanning the flames too.
The trouble is that they look at somebody like Peter Wilsman being re-elected to the NEC yesterday, having made anti-Semitic comments, and indeed volunteering that he had made them, indeed volunteering that he should undergo retraining, and he is now sitting on the NEC. Isn't that sending entirely the wrong message?
Completely. I'm afraid, sadly, the nature of democracy is once the voting opens, and I myself included, I voted in the NEC elections at the start of that process, and it was days after the voting opened that Peter Wilsman's comments came to light. So there was a long period in which people were voting for him before that had happened, and maybe the election could have been started again, I don't know. But he's shown some remorse. I hope he continues to go further with that. But I do take issue with this specific example, because people were voting days and days and days before, in their thousands, before Peter Wilsman's comments came to light.
I've been an active and vocal member of the Labour Friends of Palestine for years, and I first went to Palestine in the 1990s when I worked for the British Council. We were supporting the establishment of the Palestinian National Authority. I feel passionately about the abuses of the human rights and the economic rights of Palestinian people, and I have never held back in my criticism of the Israeli government. The IHRA definition has never in any way made me feel constrained about my criticism of Israel. I think we need to just draw a very clear line in the sand here. It is perfectly possible to criticize and attack the Israeli government for the appalling things that they do without transgressing the terms of the IHRA definition.
But yes, you're totally right. But the problem is that some people, Margaret Hodge included, see this as a very fine line. She herself said in a Sky News interview, there's a very fine line between being pro-Palestinian and being anti-Semitic.
But she does call, specifically, she calls Jeremy Corbyn an anti-Semite.
But the point I'm making here, and I'll come back to, because this is the definition today. Let's leave Corbyn aside for a second.
Well,
I think
we can't keep leaving Corbyn aside, can we? Because he is the problem.
Today is about something bigger. Today is about the Labour Party, the most progressive organisation, the largest political party in Western Europe, adopting a definition of anti-Semitism which will set the course of how Jewish people and potentially Palestinian people are spoken about and treated for generations to come. So for today, let's park Corbyn.
But with the best will in the world, you can't park Corbyn, can you? Because Mr. Corbyn is the leader of the Labour Party, and that is a fact. He might be the next Prime Minister of this country. That is a fact. It's the possibility.
Yes, it's quite possible.
So therefore, what he believes and how he behaves and the lead that he sets is vitally important in this.
Oh, I totally agree. I was just saying that on the specifics of the IHRA examples, which I think are really important to negotiate here, that there has to be some clarifications. Totally think every issue that arises around Corbyn we should discuss. But there is a big but here. There are some people within the Labour Party and some people outside of it too who are using this as an opportunity to have digs at Jeremy Corbyn, have digs at the Labour Party more broadly. And we shouldn't be afraid of saying that. And I do think it's incredibly significant that while Stephen is right to say he's a supporter of the Palestinian people and hasn't been accused of anti-Semitism in the past. There are some people who are. That line is murky, as Margaret Hodge herself seems to want to say. I was sat on the sofa with Piers Morgan just a few hours ago, who himself was accused of anti-Semitism, and I said this to him on air, for tweeting about the assault of the Israeli government on Gaza, on Palestinian people. Now, if there hadn't been clarity in this definition, which is so important, that adds context, as the IHRA definition itself says, is needed, as the Home Affairs Select Committee says is needed, then he would have had no chance of having that rebutted. And I think many things about Piers Morgan, but I don't believe he was being anti-Semitic there. So that's all it means, is when we have this vote today, it's incredibly important that the IHRA definition is passed, but with clarifications that make sure there is free speech on the Israel-Palestine issue, both in the interest of Jewish and Palestinian.
And Stephen Kinnock, if that is indeed what happens, you said earlier you don't want that to happen, you don't want all those clarifications, what should Jeremy Corbyn do? Let's return it to Jeremy Corbyn. What should his view be? You said he should show remorse. I wonder what you mean by that.
Well, I do think that the conference speech that he's going to be making in a couple of weeks is going to be one of the most important that we've had in the history of the Labour Party. The failure to not just apologise, but for what has been said and done, and for some of the actions and some of the issues that we're discussing today. It needs to also be absolutely clear that what has happened has been wrong in terms of the way that this whole process has been managed, that the failure to consult properly, the failure to demonstrate that we are a whole nation party that brings communities together, that doesn't have extremist views that polarize people. That is it. That's why this is about a battle for the soul of the Labour Party.
And is there likely to be another vote amongst MPs? Do you think another no-confidence vote amongst MPs? Do you believe on as Labour MPs?
I don't think that should happen, because I think what we need to do now is take some time to get a clear message from Jeremy and the leadership about the way forward.
And in the absence of that
he needs
message,
to demonstrate that he's ready to listen and to show remorse for what has happened. We should be 20 points ahead in the opinion poll.
Right, so in the absence of that message, if he doesn't, and he's not shown any great tendency to do that sort of thing, has he, over the past couple of years on this particular issue?
I'm not going to speculate about the negative side of this. I want to focus on the positive. There's a huge opportunity for the man who is leader of the Labour Party now to show that he's listening and to show the leadership that this country is crying out for.
Stephen Kinnock and Michael Segalov, thank you both very much.